Okay, in this video we are factoring expressions. We're putting it into as many parentheses as possible. You're not writing x equals because there's no equals. You can't solve an equation if there's no equals. Okay, so all you're doing is lining up the parentheses down there. Okay, now you need your multiplication table and you need the 2 terms or 3 terms. So this expression here has 2 terms, okay? So you're finding the GCF, then you're going to see if we have a difference of perfect squares. These are the steps. So GCF, and then you see if we then have a difference of perfect squares. Okay, so you do have x on the end, okay, on the last slot. You do not have a negative in the first slot. Now 15 and 45, so there's 15 and 45 is a multiple of 15 as well as 15, so 15 would be the GCF. So when you go up and divide, you need to divide by whatever's here, okay? You just bring that 15x up here, and you have to divide by 15x here. So you divide 15 by 15, that's 1. Now x second divided by x. This is how to divide x's. You write 2 x's and then an x on bottom. Get a wipe out there, but there's still a remainder x, so you put an x under with your 1. Negative 45 divided by 15 is negative 3, and then x divided by itself gives me a complete wipeout. Okay, so I put my GCF over here. Then before I do the next step, I want to get rid of I'm going to cross that out and the original problem out. So now I'm just looking at this expression. Now the second term has to be a negative. Okay, it is. Okay, that's the first thing you check for. Now 1, that's a perfect square because that's 1 times 1. But x without the second power is not a perfect square. Okay, so you run out of perfect squares. You can't do this. You can't do that, so you write no. So then you're going to put that 1x minus 3 just alongside the 15x. Okay, my next problem, x to the second power minus 2x minus 24. So this is 3 terms. So 3 terms is greatest common factor. Then we use our table to find the mystery numbers and then the parentheses. And then the A is very important once I do my parentheses. Okay, so GCF and table. So there's no x in the last slot. There's no negative in the front slot. Then 1, 2, and 24. So 1, 2, 24 are all in row 1. So that means when it's 1, we don't do it. Okay. So then I apply the ABC labels to my trinomial. And then 1 times negative 24 would be negative 24. Okay, so that's a mismatch. Positive, negative, and it has to add to whatever my b is, which is negative 2. So 24 divided by 1 is 24. So we add those, that's negative 23. That's not even close. 24 divided by 2 is 12. 2 plus negative 12 is negative 10. No. 24 divided by 3 equals 8, so I put 3 with 8. 3 plus negative 8 is negative 5. And then 24 divided by 4 is 6. 4 plus negative 6 is negative 2. So then I put in my parentheses, put in the mystery factors, and then my A. Okay, my x to the second, where I did the a, that's 1. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go x times x. I'm going to rewrite the x second, but I'm not going to rewrite the 1. I'm just going to attach the 1 in front of it. Okay. So 1 and 4, are both in row 1, so I would divide by 1 here, and that would just keep it the same. 1 and 6. 1 and 6 only appear in the first row. So I would divide by 1 here. Now before we line this up, make sure the numbers in front of the x's multiply. 1 times 1, multiply it in your head. 1 times 1, that needs to be what's in front of the a. 1 times 1 is 1, so that's right. You need the numbers not with the x's, 4 times negative 6, that's got to multiply to your c, and it does. So we're right. 1x plus 4 times 1x minus 6. Okay, 3x to the second power minus 7x minus 40. Okay, so I'm actually going to change this problem. Make that a plus, please, and get rid of that. We're just going to put 4. Okay, get rid of that. 3x second minus 7x plus 4. So there are 3 terms again. So greatest common factor, same setup as on the last problem. So there's no x in the final term, there's no negative in the first term. 3, 7, and 4, 3, that would just be 1, okay? So we're not going to do that. ABC, so I take positive 3 times positive 4, okay? And that's positive 12, so that's a match. So you put in 2 of the same sign on a match. 2 things match, they're the same. We are adding to get to the b, which is negative 7. So 12 divided by 1 is 12. And when I add those, that's negative 13, so that's wrong. 12 divided by 2 is 6. When I add those, that's negative 8. That's close, but it's not. It's still wide. 12 divided by 3 is 4. Add those, and you get negative 7. So a is 3x to the second, okay? So you put in negative 3, negative 4, and the x second we go x times x, and then we do not rewrite the 3. We put the 3 in front of each of our x's and divide. Now if you have the same number, okay, 3 and 3, you need to divide by 3, not 1. So it's 1x minus 1. And then 3 and 4 would appear in row 1, so you would just divide that by 1. So 3x minus 4. Okay, now make sure the numbers in front of the x's multiply to what is in front of the x to the second up here, because see this is equivalent to this, okay? So 1 times 3 is 3, yeah. And then the numbers without the x is negative 1, negative 4 need to multiply to the c, and they do, positive 4. So you write 1x minus 1 times 3x minus 4. Okay, next problem. Negative 3x to the second plus 108. Okay, this one's a little bit tougher. Now it's 2 terms, so we don't have to do the t table. It's GCF DOPS. And I'm not seeing the x at the end. I am seeing a negative in front, so we put a negative because the front slot has a negative. That's why we're doing a negative. Now 3 and 108. So here's 3. Now the table runs out before you can get to 108. So go on your computer, okay? Go to a Google search. And Google GCF calculator. GCF calculator, okay? Just click on the first one. And instead of, because we know the chart's not going to work because it's not big enough, okay? The numbers don't go high enough. That goes forever. So you're going to enter in 3 and 108. So 3, comma, 108. So that'll tell you that those would both be in the third row if the chart was bigger. Third row. So it's 3 But remember, we're dividing by negative 3. Okay? So negative 3 divided by negative 3 is 1. Now, I'm not putting an x underneath this because I'm not putting an x here. Okay? So this x, if I don't have an x under the line, I leave that as x to the second power. Positive 108 divided by negative 3 is negative 36. Okay? Now, you bring your GCF over, you cross it off, and then cross out the original. Now we're just going from here. Okay? Now, is the first term positive? Yes. Is the second term negative? Yes. Okay? You see that right there. So, yep. So 1 is a perfect square. It's 1 times 1. X to the second is a perfect square because that's x times itself. X times x. Then after the negative, you have 36. So here's 36. That's 6 times 6. Okay, so we made it. First term's positive, second term's negative like it should be. This is 1x times 1x, 1x second, 1 times 1 is 1, x times x, x second, and 6 times 6 is 36. So then you're going to rewrite this as, cross that out and write it as 1x, 1x, and then 6, 6. And these are the parentheses you then bring over. Okay, so you had 3 of them there because you had a GCF and then it was a DOPS. Okay, 10x to the second power minus 45x, so that's 2 terms. Okay, so it's GCF and then DOPS. Okay, you have an x in the last slot. You do not have a negative in the first slot, 10 and 45. So here's 10, no 45, so they're not multiples of 10. Okay. Here's 10, here's 45, so they're both multiples of 5. So that makes 5 our greatest common factor. Now, whatever's in that parentheses, you bring up here and you're dividing by it. So 10 divided by 5 is 2. This time I did put an x under the line, so I need to divide the x second by the x. So x second is x times x divided by x. That'll give me x. Then negative 45 divided by 5 is negative 9. Okay? And x divided by x just is a complete wipeout. So you bring your GCF over. Okay? You cross out that crap. First term's positive, second term's negative, so that's good, okay? But the problem is, DOPS, we look through here, and I don't see 2, okay? So right away, that's a no. This, and this have to be perfect squares, all of it, okay? And if anything's not, you write no. So you bring over your 2x minus 9. That's your factoring. Okay, x to the second minus 7x plus 10. Okay, so that's 3 terms. GCF table. Okay, so I'm not seeing x on the last term. I'm not seeing a negative in the front slot, so it'd just be 1, okay? Okay, 1 times 10 is 10, so it's positive 10, because these are only in the first row, that's why it's 1, okay? So the signs match, put in 2 signs that match, negative, negative, and the factors have to add to negative 7. So 10 divided by 1 is 10, 1 and 10, that adds to negative 11, so it can't be that. 10 divided by 2 is 5. What happens when you add negative 2 to negative 5? You get negative 7, so we're on the money. Okay, then I put in my 4 parentheses, okay, and then I put A equals out front. So first I put in the mystery numbers I found, -2, -5. Then the A, that's your x second, go find your A, and A is a 1. So x second we're going to rewrite as x times x. Now we're not trying to rewrite the 1, we're just putting a 1 in front and then dividing these. Okay, so 1 and 2, those would only be in the 1 row. So 1x minus 2. 1 and 5, those would only be in the 1 row. So 1x minus 5. Okay, now before you line them up, make sure the numbers in front of the x's multiply to the number in front of the x second. See, x at 1 times 1 is 1, so that's good. -2 times -5 is positive 10, which is the C. Okay, so 1x minus 2 times 1x minus 5. Okay, this is a minus, not an equals. Okay, get that out of there. That's not a times dot, it's just -9. Okay, just scribble it out. 7x to the second minus 2x minus 9. So that's 3 terms. So 3 terms is the same setup as we did on the last problem. GCF, and then the table. Okay, so there's no x on the last term, there's no negative on the first term. Okay, 7, 2, and 9. So there's 2, but 7 and 9 aren't there, so it's just up to 1. They're all in the first row. So 1 we're not doing. Okay. Okay, so I take 7 times -9, the A times C product. That would be -63. So that is a mismatch. So that's positive times a negative. And the factors need to add to get to the B, which is -2. Okay, so 63 divided by 1 is 63. Now I add those, that's -62. That's not even close. 63 divided by 2 is a decimal. 63 divided by 3 is 21. That's all well and good, but 3 plus -21 is not equal to 2. Then 63 divided by 3 decimal, or 63 divided by 4, sorry, I already did 3. Decimal, decimal. Okay, 7 and 9, how about that? Well, 7 plus -9 is -2. So we have found it. So we put in the +7, the -9, and the A, okay, you put x to the second, you go find your A, it's 7x to the second. So x second we're going to rewrite as x times x. Now we are not rewriting the 7, we are attaching a 7 to each x. Okay, now these are identical numbers, so identical numbers you need to divide by the same thing, so it's going to be 1x plus 1. 7 and 9 are not identical, so I go 7, there's no 9. 7 and 9 is in 1's row. Okay. Okay, make sure to multiply the numbers in front of the x's. 1 times 7, 7. Is that what's in front of the x second? Yes. Multiply the non-x numbers. 1 times -9. That should multiply to what is the last slot, -9. Numbers in front of the x's should multiply to the A. Numbers behind the x's should multiply to the C. So 1x plus 1 times 7x minus 9. Okay, now the next one, 40x to the second minus 136x minus 96. So 3 terms, GCF and table. Now there better be a GCF because these are huge. There's no x on the end, there's no negative, so 40, find 40 for the first time. There's no 40th row, so there's 40, first time I see 40. 36 and 196, okay, no, okay. Where else do I see 40? 40, okay, 136, and 96, so they're all in row 8, okay. So GCF's 8, but remember, you're not putting X, you're not putting the negatives, so you're just going to go divide by 8. Okay, 40 divided by 8 is 5, and since I'm not putting X underneath there, X to the second stays. Negative 136 divided by 8 is going to be negative 17. And then I'm not, the X, I'm not dividing, I'm not putting an X down there, so it's 17X. Then negative 96 divided by 8 is negative 12. Okay, so you go put the GCF right there, then you cross it off and you cross out the top, because now you have a new expression before you come down here. So this is going to be your ABC now. See, when I do a 1, I don't do it, so I just come up here and do the ABC. But when I do the GCF, after I place the GCF over here, okay, I then proceed from here. So I take 5 times negative 12. Remember, we're trying to rewrite this into 2 parentheses down here. Okay, 5 times negative 12 is negative 60, so that is a mismatch. And the mismatch has to add to the value of negative 17. Okay, so start dividing. 60 divided by 160, that's negative 59, doesn't work. 60 divided by 2 is 30, that's negative 28, doesn't work. 60 divided by 3 is 20, and let's add 3 and negative 20. Yep, negative 17. So we found it. So you put in your positive 3 or negative 20. Now A, that's your X second. Now go find where you have the A label. It's 5, okay? Remember, I crossed out the 8, I crossed all this stuff. So X times X. And we will be placing a 5 in front of the X's. Okay, so 5 and 3. No, not in that row, so it would be just divided by 1 because they're in the first row together. 5 and 20. So here's 5 and 20 in the 5th row, so divide by 5. That's 1x minus 4. Now make sure the numbers, multiply the numbers in your head in front of the x's. 5 times 1 is 5, and that should be what's in front of the x second. Now 3 times negative 4 is negative 12, that should be the last, the C, and it is. Okay, so I go 5x plus 3. After that 8 I've already put, times 1x minus 4. Okay, next one. 4x to the second power minus 20x. So there are 2 terms there, so we're back to GCF dots. Okay, so I have an x on the end. I have a negative in the front, okay? I don't have a negative in front, excuse me. Okay, so x will be there, but not the negative. 4 and 20. There's 4, there's 20, so it'd be in the 4 row. 4 would be the greatest common factor, since 4 is a multiple of 4, and so is 20. Okay, so then you go divide by not just 4, 4x. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, x second divided by x. So that would be x. Negative 20 divided by 4 is negative 5. Then I divide my x's, and that's a complete wipeout. So you bring your GC, when you do the GCF, before you move on to the next step, you always want to cross it out and cross that out. Okay, so DOPS. First term's got to be positive, it is. Second term's got to be negative, and it is. Then 1. 1's 1 times 1. But x isn't a perfect square. X to the second power is x times x, but this is just x, okay? So that's a no. So you're just going to bring the 1x minus 5 right alongside of that. Okay, x to the second power minus 12x plus 27. So we have three terms now. So that would be GCF. In your table. So there's no x, there's no negative, 1, 12, and 27. That's just in row 1. Everything's in row 1, but that's why you don't do it. There's nothing special that happens. So ABC comes from here. If I'm not doing that, I go back up top, do the ABC. Okay, so 1 times 27 is 27, and it's positive, okay? So it's a match, and it's got to add to negative 12. So 27 divided by 1 is 27. That adds to negative 28, so that's no dice. 27 divided by 2 is a decimal. 27 divided by 3 is 9. Negative 3 plus negative 9 is negative 12. Okay, so you put in your mystery numbers from the table, and then your A is 1. Okay, so XX, and then 1 and 1. Okay, so 1, try to divide these. 1 and 3, well, that'd just be in row 1, so I'd divide by 1. 1 and 9, just row 1. So that's what we're dividing by, which really just keeps everything the same. Okay, so numbers in front of the x, 1 times 1 is 1, and that should be the A. Numbers behind the x is negative 3 times negative 9 is positive 27, and that should be what's in front of the C. So 1x minus 3 times 1x minus 9. Okay. 5x to the second power minus 24x minus 25. So now we're back to three terms. Now, here's what I'll see some people think about. Well, there's no x, there's no x on the last slot, no negative in the front slot. They'll say, oh, these are identical, so I just do 5. No, but there's also the 24. So you're really just looking at 5 and 24. So there's a 5, but no 24, so 5 wouldn't be a factor of 24. And 5, 20, yeah, row 1, but that doesn't do anything, So ABC from up here, so 5 times negative 5 is negative 25, okay? So that is a mismatch. 25 divided by 1 is 25. And remember, you're adding, you always got to know what you're adding to, negative 24. Okay, 1 plus negative 25, there's negative 24 right there, so we don't have to go any further. So it didn't take me long to find the mystery factor pair. Okay, now what's your A? A is 5. Okay, so XX, and then 5 and 5. Okay, 5 and 1. Okay, so there's 1 and 5, so that's 1. So it's 5x plus 1. 5 and 25. 5. So it'd be 1x minus 5. The numbers in front of the x is 5 times 1, that's 5, and that needs to be what's in front of the x second, 5. And then the numbers behind the x is 1 times negative 5 needs to be what's the C is, and it is. Okay, last problem. Negative 2x to the second plus 50, two terms. So GCF, and then the difference of perfect squares. There's no x, there is a negative in front. You got to get this, okay? Okay, 2 and 50, so there's 2 and there's 50, so it would be 2, okay? Negative 2, but no x because we don't have an x on that last slot. So you're coming up here and bringing that negative 2, and that's what you are dividing by. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 is 1. Now the x second, I don't have an x under the division line, so I'm not dividing this. It will just stay x to the second. 50 divided by negative 2 is negative 25. So you do what you always do with the GCF when you do that step. You cross it off, cross out the original, and now we're looking here. The first term's positive, the second term's negative because of this minus, okay? So we're good. Okay, difference of perfect squares. Well, 1's a perfect square. It's 1 times 1. X to the second power is a perfect square. That's x times x. So we attach an x. Since the x second was attached to the 1, then the xx is attached to the 1. Okay, then after 25, that's 5 times 5. So yeah, we made it all the way to the end. We had the right signs, and that's a perfect square because it's 1x times 1x. That's 5 times 5. Okay, so since we made it here, cross that out, and that's not what we line up. We don't line up this because remember this has turned into this.